Let's go back to Philip.
This is a $20,000 race, so it's a race that most trainers would like to win, and one in particular is Noel Eales, who has brought Silver Elm north. Now, he accepted for the Television New Zealand Stakes as well, but I understand there was a preference for her to run in this 2,400-metre race. So maybe if that's an indication, then it's a fairly good one. Let's take the field now for the Oliver Nicholson of 1986 with Tony Lee.
Headed by 1 Gold Lomond, 2 Mr. Duthie, 3 the favourite Silver Elm, 4 is Peake, 5 by Noble, 6 Kotare Chief, 7 Teseres, number 8 is Final Advance, 9 Alvator, 10 Mr. Chicken George, 12 is Bold Monarch, 13 McLeod and 14 James Brigand.
Here's Silver Elm now. She's a grey, beautifully bred by In the Purple out of Sassy. She's trained by Noel Eales, the Awapuni trainer, and she carries the hopes of a number of owners. She ran a pretty good effort at her last start. That was a third. Today she'll be handled by David Peake.
Indeed, that third was a good effort leading into this race, the type of race that obviously this mare's on the way up. And with that third shows that she's pretty close to a top form, and at $4.70 and $1.90 she is the favourite. It's a pretty good betting race all the same. She's got a lot of quality about her, Silver Elm. We've seen her been right up there amongst them in some very big races here at Ellerslie, as well as down in her own area in the Central Districts. They're confidently expecting a fairly good run from her, and I can see no reason why she won't go another good race today in this.
Is Teseres, who, as we said earlier, went a very, very good race at its last start. Brian Cameron, the Cambridge trainer, trained Tambura, one of our good performers over recent years. In fact, the tote hasn't closed, but can't be far away. There it is now, red light. Set to go in the last, in the fourth of the day. Not through that quickly. Here's Keith.
Standing up okay. Racing from the 2400. Caught them well, one of the first away. James Brigand on the inside, kicked along to lead. Teseres is going with it. Over goes Silver Elm out wide, the grey. Tracked over by Kotare Chief and Mr. Chicken George, trapped a little wide. Behind them now Alvator, and back on the rails Peake. In that group Mr. Duthie last of all is McLeod, and alongside of it Final Advance. And back towards the rear by Noble and Gold Lomond in the last 4 or 5. Settling Silver Elm takes the pace, well on the bit from Kotare Chief, about a half length away. A length and a half to James Brigand on the inside of Teseres, 2 to Bold Monarch, then Alvator. About a length and a half Mr. Duthie from Mr. Chicken George, then followed by Peake, by Noble. Gold Lomond 3 deep, then McLeod and Final Advance last. 15 off the leaders as they lead the straight. So the leader Silver Elm. Second place, Kotare Chiefs going up on the outside. About a length and a half, then James Brigand, Teseres together, a length and a half, Alvator, Bold Monarch, 1,600 metres to go. 2 back, then Mr. Duthie, a half to Mr. Chicken George, then Peake, then Gold Lomond. He's only 1 out now from then well back McLeod, by Noble, and Final Advance last of all. 20 off the leaders as Kotare Chief let go, strides away to lead by 3 lengths. Second place, Silver Elm, then Teseres, 3 back, James Brigand, Bold Monarch. Alvator's a length and a half back with Mr. Duthie, then 2 back, Mr. Chicken George. Then Peake, Gold Lomond, McLeod, by Noble, and Final Advance. Working up the rise and the pace on now. Kotare Chief away by about 4 lengths on Silver Elm. 1 back to Teseres, 2 to James Brigand, then Bold Monarch, a length and a half or so to then to Alvator. Mr. Duthie on the outside of it, then 2 back Mr. Chicken George with then Peake, Gold Lomond, then McLeod, by Noble, and last is Final Advance. But at the 800 metres, Kotare Chief with a break of about 4 lengths. In second place, Silver Elm, then 2 to Teseres, 3 back, Bold Monarch, James Brigand, Mr. Duthie starting to move. Alvator is next, then Gold Lomond, then followed Mr. Chicken George, by Noble, McLeod, Peake, and Final Advance on the turn, 5.50 to go, and Kotare Chief with a decent break of 4 lengths on Silver Elm. They're being worked on to chase the leader, Teseres, and then Mr. Duthie into the straight comes Kotare Chief. Away by 4 lengths on Silver Elm, sent after it, 3 or 4 away, then Mr. Duthie to Teseres. At the 300 metres, Kotare Chief the one to catch, and he's going to be hard to collar now. Silver Elm starting to stretch after it with Teseres, Mr. Chicken George and Mr. Duthie. Kotare Chief, but Silver Elm slowly overwhelming it on the outside and got the lead. Silver Elm raced to the lead though, and Silver Elm is too good, going to win it nicely. Second at the line, Kotare Chief just held out Mr. Chicken George. Alvator was next, then followed home Peake, Teseres, then Mr. Duthie, then Bold Monarch. They were followed Gold Lomond, next behind them James Brigand, then by Noble. They were followed home next, then by McLeod, and Final Advance was last.
Yeah, pretty good result there for number 3, Silver Elm, and David Peake. Just when it looked as though Kotare Chief had something left, the pace started to tell and started to fade as Silver Elm climbed over the top of it and won extremely well indeed. A good performance by the Awapuni visitor. Let's go to the final stages now of the Oliver Nicholson with Grant Nisbet.
And it's Kotare Chief doing what he did on the Wellington Cup, kicking well clear on the turn. And at this stage, a good break of 3 or 4 lengths on Silver Elm, who's under a hard ride here from David Peake. And really at this stage, there are only 2 in it. Kotare Chief still going okay, but now Silver Elm starting to close the gap, and coming home strongly in the red there is Mr. Chicken George. But the race is between finally at least Kotare Chief and Silver Elm. Silver Elm getting to the front and doing just a little too well for Kotare Chief, and Mr. Chicken George absolutely flying home, but it's too late, and Silver Elm home by a good length and a bit from Kotare Chief and Mr. Chicken George in 3rd place.
So the winner of the race, she's a 5-year-old mare by In the Purple out of Sassy, and she's won like a very good horse indeed. And $4.70, quite good money too. I'll just see if I can get a quick word with Noel Eales. He's just joining me now. Well, Noel, you must be pretty happy with that result. Was it much of a decision to make as to which race you wanted to go? I know she was balloted out in the other, but was there a preference?
No, she had a lot of hard luck, Philip, and we sort of had to look what was logic. The 2000 weight for age. Well, when the luck's been against, and I thought the big field, I'll go safety. And she could do no more men, so it was very thrilling.
The track conditions, did you think would be pretty ideal for her?
Fair, more easy. Any horse with a sting out loves it, and that certainly applies to her.
She's always been regarded by you as a fairly good type of mare.
Yeah, well, she's had a bad luck season. She got hurt in December and had a September rather, and had a lot of luck against her and got knocked in racing and you name it. And it was lovely today to see her back to her best.
Where will she go from now, Noel?
Well, I'll give the Hawke's Bay Cup some thought next week, Philip.
Congratulations.